It's a skunk or a border collie. Actually, no, it's my cat. Oh, she's so cute. It's my other cat. Ah! So I want to talk about OCD and treatment options. Oh, get here. Oh, wow. Okay, so um, before I start, I want to mention that OCD it's a medical condition like any other that requires treatment. So I mean, really, it's not like it's one of those things that's caused by a lack of self-esteem or a lack of intelligence or that you're secretly a really horrible person deep down inside. It's a chemical imbalance within the brain, something you were born with. It's not your fault, not your parents' fault. Um, it's just the way it is, and it requires medical intervention for a lot of people to get better. A lot of people without treatment, things just get worse. And I'm not saying some people can't manage on their own; they can, but for a great many, um, treatment is required for things to get better. At least that was the case for me, for sure. So there's really two options. There's therapy or medication. Medication I've never really done. There's SSRIs or monos. Both of those are antidepressants, not because you are depressed, but because they affect serotonin, which is related in some way to OCD, although that's not quite understood super well at this point. But I've never tried it because the success rate is only about 60%, which I find to be less than impressive, especially because when they say success rate, they don't mean that the person has totally cured their OCD and all symptoms are gone. It could be anywhere from showing a slight improvement in symptoms to showing great improvement in symptoms. So that range is huge, and success rate is pretty lame. So for me, it's kind of scary. Additionally, the risk of developing side effects is very high, and side effects would include anything from sexual dysfunction to appetite problems, weight gain, sleeping issues, skin issues, tremors, whatever. There's so many things that could go wrong. So, I mean, not to say that these things are not helpful, like these drugs, but to me, it's just too scary for me to try it. I don't know, not my cup of tea. But if it works for you, great. Next option is therapy, which has about 90% success rate if it's ACT or CBT. That to me sounded awesome, however, super scary. So I avoided it for a long time, but I eventually tried it when I had no other choice. And it was extremely helpful and not at all what I thought it was going to be like. So if therapy is something that you're ready for or you're just thinking about, I'm just going to share with you some steps that I used to help me through and just things that I did to find a therapist. So once you've decided that you want to start therapy, the first thing you need to do is find a therapist, someone who's qualified. And when I say qualified, I don't mean someone who's legally qualified, because of course most of them are, if not all. I mean someone who listens to you, is patient, and has empathy and understands what you're going through. So I think that's really important, because if you don't have a framework of trust with your therapist, it's just not going to work. So you can find one by getting referrals from Google or your doctor or insurance company or your school. There's a million different ways. And basically you just call them up and leave messages, and some of them will call you back. And then ask them if they have experience treating OCD. If not, move on. Don't waste your time. Second would be ask if they're accepting new clients. If they're not, then move on. Or if you really, really like them, then you can, choose to wait. Ask about the kind of therapy they practice and their philosophy behind that and why they've chosen that, all that kind of stuff. So basically the ones you're looking for are ACT, or Acceptance Commitment Therapy, CBT, or Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, or EMDR, which is it's like rapid eye movement. I don't know much about it. So basically, if they don't do one of these, and maybe there might be more, I'm not sure, but those are the main ones, there's not really much point, because other therapies can actually cause more harm than good in terms of OCD, like psychoanalysis could make things a lot worse. Ask about their rates, if they offer a sliding scale, if they accept insurance, that kind of thing. And your rates will be determined on a whole lot of things, including what state you live in. Ask for, if all that sounds great, then you'd ask for a first session. And that one is super important, because this is where you will be answering a lot of questions and going through a questionnaire and talking about your history, your symptoms, what's going on, where they can actually, really diagnose you, because there could be something else going on in addition to or in lieu of OCD. So that's a really good base to start with. But also, even more important than that, this is where you are establishing if this is going to really work or not with this particular person. So for me, like the first therapist I tried, she sounded great on the phone, and then when I went to go see her, she was, I don't know, something about her I just really didn't like. And I was telling her stories and discussing my symptoms, and occasionally she would laugh. And I kind of got the impression that she was laughing at my pain, which really pissed me off. So but then I left, and I wasn't sure if it was me, or like maybe I was sabotaging it in some way, or that I was trying to talk myself out of therapy again, because I've been avoiding it for a long time. But then I was telling my husband and my family about it, and I realized that every time I told the story, I was getting more and more upset about it, which showed me that it was not a good experience, and it wasn't my fault, and it was not the right therapist. So I tried another one, and I almost instantly knew that this was the person I really wanted to help me with this. And I was in therapy for almost a year, and it was a really wonderful experience for the most part, and I got so much out of it, and the things I learned in there are just so helpful, stuff that I really couldn't have done it on my own. So I don't know, it's really not as scary as it seems, especially because TV shows like Obsessed and the OCD Project make it seem like absolutely intense and horrifying and just awful. And that's my problem with those shows, is that even though they bring awareness to OCD, and that's great, they exploit these people and what they're going through. And they also do therapy in this boot camp style sort of process, and with super intense exposures, which is not actually representative of what really goes on in therapy. So I find it to be a little irresponsible, especially because it scares people out of going into therapy. It definitely scared me out of it for a long time. For really these exposures that you really do, they're a lot slower paced. You spend a long time building up to it, and it goes at your speed because it's your therapy. This is not for you to, get good grades or impress your therapist. This is all about you. So definitely don't pay attention to those shows. In terms of getting a good idea of what therapy's like. But if you're thinking about it, or if you're ready, that's great. And I know it's absolutely terrifying, but once you get into it, it gets easier as you go along in a lot of ways. And it's great to learn that you could live a happy life and live a fulfilling life despite what the brain does. So, just stay strong, be brave, and take care.